Who leaves at 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of winter and doesn't take anything?
I got in touch with the Greenfield Township Police to find out what has been done thus far. And by that point, nothing.
A young woman goes missing from a home with boarded up windows and padlocked doors. Her former partner insists that she ran away, but no trace of her has ever been found. It's time to turn on the searchlight for Fawn Mountain. Welcome back to Brain Scratch Searchlight. I'm John Lordan. Thank you so much for caring about these cases like I do. Fawn Mountain is known as a fun-loving woman by those that are close to her, someone who loved to make up dances to her favorite songs, and during her school years, participated in many extracurricular activities. She was also known to always go out of her way to help a friend. However, behind all the light that Fawn shined on those around her, there was a dark secret. During her childhood, she was both physically and sexually abused. Despite this, she grew into a caring and warm young woman. She loved spending time with her favorite cousin, Bridget Gill, watching comedies or their favorite horror movies in the town of Altoona, Pennsylvania. According to Wikipedia, Altoona is a city in Blair County, Pennsylvania, with a population of over 43,000 people. Altoona was established as part of the railroad industry, but has grown a lot since its early days. They now have their own baseball team, the Altoona Symphony Orchestra, and many other landmarks and museums. Unfortunately, Fawn fell into a relationship that turned abusive. She would have 2 children with this partner, suffering for some time before the man finally left her. This crushed Fawn, as she still loved him. She felt unworthy of affection and unable to cope with having 2 children and being on her own. She turned to alcohol and drugs and dated other men who were seemingly just as abusive as the father of her children. She eventually lost custody of both of them, and soon after that, she found herself pregnant. Sadly, the little girl, who would be named Caden, was stillborn. Fawn was crushed again. She had Caden cremated, and she always kept Caden's ashes nearby. In 2009, things seemed to be turning around for Fawn. That year, she met a woman named Heather Dybert at a bar called The Island. The two immediately hit it off. This was Fawn's first relationship with a woman, and it seemed to be what she needed in her life. After dating for a few months, Fawn told her family that the two were moving in together in a trailer at the Binks Mill Court in a nearby small town called Claysburg. Heather and her brother Mike worked at the family's butcher shop in town. He would also be living next door to Heather and Fawn with his girlfriend, Stephanie Klar. Fawn told her mother, Dorothy, "I'm afraid that if I move to Claysburg with Heather, I may never come back to Altoona." What could she have meant by that? In the beginning, when the new couple was spending every waking moment together, no one thought anything of it. But as time went on, the family started to feel that Heather was monopolizing Fawn's time. Fawn's perspective was that Heather needed her that close because she just loved her that much. What she didn't realize was that Heather was slowly isolating Fawn from everyone. And Heather also had a history of domestic violence. Several previous partners had been forced to get restraining orders against her. Stephanie, Heather's brother's girlfriend, even described her as short-tempered, rough, and cold. When Heather left their home to go to work, she either took Fawn with her and locked her in the car for her whole shift, or she would padlock their front door so that Fawn couldn't leave. Fawn was never allowed to have a job or friends of her own. No cell phone was allowed, and any calls that came to the trailer were automatically forwarded directly to Heather's cell phone. The only lifeline Fawn had was talking to Stephanie through the trailer's windows. I mean, it literally sounds like this woman was imprisoned. When Heather started to detect Fawn's unhappiness, she started having her mother drop in during the day to make sure that Fawn was behaving. One of these times, her mother caught Stephanie and Fawn talking through the windows, so Heather boarded them all up. At this point, Fawn wanted out of the relationship, but she had no means to do so. Each time she managed to escape, she always ran home to her mother's house, and Heather would eventually show up, demanding that Fawn leave with her, and she would. Fawn's mother saw that she was trying to hide bruises by wearing long sleeves and high collars, but the injuries were still noticeable. It became so bad that the local hospitals also noticed injuries and tried to get Fawn help. Heather started taking her to different hospitals instead. Time after time, Fawn went back because if she didn't, she was told that Caden's ashes would be thrown in the trash. Fawn couldn't handle the thought of that and continued to give in to Heather's demands. There was another bad blow-up in February of 2011. This time, Fawn was left locked in Heather's car while she was at work. She got out of the car and ran, setting off the car's alarm. She quickly found a phone and called a friend who took her back to the trailer so she could retrieve Caden's ashes. Unfortunately, once there, she realized that she was going to have to break the lock to get it. Heather called the police and reported that someone was breaking into her trailer. Fawn was caught and fined $2,700 and charged with felony burglary and trespassing. And she returned to Heather. Shortly after that incident, Fawn broke off all contact with her family. To her mother's surprise, she received a restraining order that was filed by Fawn. The isolation was now complete. Now it was just Fawn and Heather. But 25-year-old Fawn made another attempt to escape her situation in October of 2012. This time, she ran to her mother, but with that restraining order in place, her mother Dorothy wound up receiving jail time, and Fawn went back. That was the last time that Dorothy saw her daughter. Her mother worried constantly about her daughter's safety and repeatedly asked the police to perform welfare checks. Every time, she was assured that Fawn was fine. The last check was in November of 2012. Dates vary, but it's believed that a few days after Thanksgiving, Heather and Fawn traveled to the family butcher shop to help clean and sterilize. Mike and Stephanie helped with this as well. When everyone was done, beers were handed out, and Fawn drank, even though she usually didn't. This seemed to upset Heather. As the two got ready to leave, Fawn mentioned to Stephanie that she wanted to spend a relaxing evening at home watching one of her favorite horror movies. The next morning, Stephanie saw Heather outside of the trailer talking to her parents while she smoked a cigarette. When she asked where Fawn was, Heather told her that she had woken up at 3 a.m. to use the bathroom. She noticed that Fawn was gone, and she hadn't seen her since. Fawn's personal items were all still in the trailer, even Caden's ashes. Fawn somehow left in the middle of the night during winter and without a coat. Stephanie says she heard Mike say jokingly behind her, "I bet she killed her." Stephanie knew something was terribly wrong when Heather didn't try to find Fawn or contact anyone about the fact that she was missing. Stephanie contacted Fawn's mother, Dorothy, and told her about what was happening. She then called the police, but she was told that no investigation would happen because Fawn was an adult and could disappear if she wanted to. So no missing persons report was taken. A week later, in the middle of a cold Pennsylvania winter, Heather and her father remodeled the trailer, including replacing all the carpets and floorboards. They also installed a dog run in the backyard, which involved pouring concrete over part of it. But once the concrete was poured, no more work was done to actually complete the dog run. Soon after, Heather moved to Ohio. She returned a couple months later with a new girlfriend, who she eventually married. 6 months later, the Deiberts decided to close their local butcher shop, selling all of their tools and equipment. No one ever found out exactly why they sold the shop. Anytime Heather was questioned about Fawn's whereabouts, her answers seemed to change. Sometimes Fawn was in prison. Sometimes she was a sex worker living in another state. In April of 2015, a family member of Fawn's contacted Heather trying to find Fawn. She told them that Fawn had taken off 3 years prior. This family member actually had no idea that Fawn had been missing during that entire time. Fawn had actually still been supposedly receiving Social Security checks. She was receiving them before she went missing, and it looked like when it was investigated that she was still reviewing them after. And they were being sent to Heather's same address at the trailer park. The family complained, and a letter was sent out stating that if Fawn didn't make an appearance in person at the offices to verify her information, the checks would stop. She never appeared. Her family spoke to the police insisting that something be done about this, and this is when her missing persons report was finally entered 3 years after she went missing. Years later, of course, there were fewer witnesses and memories were fading. Officers questioned everyone that they could, and they took statements, but with little to no evidence to work with, her case went cold very quickly. At the start of 2017, Bridget found out that Fawn was missing. The two had grown apart, with family lives and tragedy driving them even further apart. To make matters worse, when she contacted the police to check on their investigation, she was told that the original file had gone missing. The investigator that had been handling her case had been fired for unrelated reasons, and it just wasn't reassigned to anyone else. The state police became involved in August of 2017. Her family now had access to missing persons posters, shirts, stickers, and bracelets. They were even able to put up billboards with her information along the highway, and they also mentioned a $10,000 reward. Bridget, along with Fawn's family, friends, and supporters, now rallied together in her name by calling themselves Fawn's Army. Heather was eventually evicted from the trailer court due to her behavior. After she left, the property, including the dog run and the trailer, were checked, but no evidence of Fawn was found. A Bring Fawn Marie Home Facebook page was started, and the family worked to keep raising awareness with the media. Fellow true crime YouTuber Kendall Rae stepped up for the family big time in 2021, and Kendall, my hat is off to you. Thank you so much for helping this family in this way. She not only covered the case, but she helped to raise thousands of dollars for the family's GoFundMe. This would help them continue to raise exposure, maintain those billboards that were already up, and keep them running. It also allowed them to increase the reward for information on Fawn. It's now $20,000. Just last month, the family held a car cruise fundraiser at a local community park to raise more for Fawn's fund and to help keep their search efforts going. If you'd like to contribute, the GoFundMe is actually still active. We'll have a link to it in the description box below. And on behalf of our supporters here at LordanArts, we've already made a donation. As her cousin Bridget points out, she has an army now. It's not just us fighting alone. That's been one of the most amazing things in this journey, is to know that we're not alone now. We're not screaming to the world and nobody's listening to us. People are listening now. State Trooper Jacob Reimstein made a statement saying that the case is active. Quote, "We've identified a person of interest in this case. The books are never closed on this." Fawn is now considered to be an endangered missing person. She stands at 5 foot 2 inches tall and weighs around 105 pounds. Her eyes are blue and her hair is brown. Her ears and lip are pierced. She has a large tattoo on her back of an angel with wings and the words, R.I.P. Caden. She also has a tattoo of the name Braden on her neck. She may dye her hair black or auburn, and she could be going by the nickname Bambi. If you have any information on the disappearance of Fawn Mountain, please call the Pennsylvania State Police at 814-696-6100, referring to case number PA 17-572793. Even if you don't have any information, you can still help. Please share this video with friends in the Pennsylvania area to help keep the awareness raised to this case. Since 2015, we've always run limited commercial ads for the benefit of the viewers and the families that we're trying to help. Obviously, we can't do that without support. A big thank you to PayPal supporters Larissa Mertshank and Hillary Green. If you'd like to help, please visit LordanArts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee like Kayla Fafanoff recently did. We really appreciate your support on our mission to run as few ads as possible while we're helping as many cases as we can. Also, a very big thank you to everyone that is now rallying around this family to support them, everyone that has now become part of Fawn's army. Let's keep those eyes, ears, and hearts open and looking for Fawn Mountain. I'll see you again here soon on the LordanArts channel.